Are you driven by virtues like loyalty and honor, justice and mercy, bravery and self-control? Do superhuman feats of strength, endurance, and perseverance like fire deep inside your belly? Are you ready to unleash your own special kind of mayhem? Then you've found your game. Join Mark Valenti and his guests as they discuss manliness, mental fortitude, strength and conditioning, history, the wisdom of the past, and all things savage.
Live a good life. If there are gods and they are just, then they will not care how devout you have been, but will welcome you based on the virtues you have lived by. If there are gods but unjust, then you should not want to worship them. If there are no gods, then you will be gone, but will have lived a noble life that will live on in the memories of your loved ones. Marcus Aurelius. So, we are here today with Brandon Parsons from Mr. P's Mythology?
That's Mythopedia.
Mythopedia, right. Mm-hmm. So, we were just talking, when I'm looking for guests for the podcast, I'll go on Facebook or whatever, anything that interests me, and I'll kind of reach out and say, hey, you know anybody in this area that could possibly do this? And I get a hold of you, and you're like, yeah, I'll do it. I thought, well, he probably just doesn't understand the question. Maybe he's from some other country and has no idea what I'm asking for. But
just local Ohio, local Northeast Ohio.
Yeah, so you were, what are you, like 20, not even 20 miles down the road?
I'm originally from Olmsted Falls, but I work in North Ridgeville, so it's right down, pretty much right down the street.
And you're a middle school teacher?
I am, 7th
so
grade.
Give me a little, I was reading your bio about doing different eras and dressing up and doing that kind of stuff, and what do you do with them?
Oh, man, what don't I do? I do a lot of role playing, a lot of dress up. I'll dress up in period clothes. We start with ancient Greece, so we get going with tunics and togas and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
The kids have a blast with that. I dress up in Roman gear. Every year I add something to my Legion gear.
Yeah.
And that blows their minds when I'm standing there in the morning with a sword and
right.
and all that. So any period we do, I try to get something. The last 10 years I've been building up my costumes.
Right, a little bit of a wardrobe going on for everything. Yeah. And you get up to 1492, you said is your specialty?
We try to.
Yeah.
There's just so much to cover by the end of the year. If we're lucky, maybe.
That is a huge span of time.
It's a long time to cover. Yeah.
It's 2,000 years there by the time you start.
And more than that, you can start with Greece.
Yeah. So I don't get into anything. We had a discussion. Kevin Hires a buddy of mine. We call him the Angry Dwarf. He was a history major at the University of Toledo, and he's just into everything. And I can't get into anything past BC. So as soon as you get into AD, I start slowing down.
Yeah, I've kind of had a it's like almost like a I don't know, a flavor you have to get used to, I guess.
Right.
I've always been a BC guy myself. AD. Actually up to fall of Rome, 476.
Yeah, right.
Like Middle Ages, I'm warming up to it.
Yeah.
Over the years, it's not so bad. But
I started to get into the Mongols and stuff. But I always say, are you familiar with Dan Carlin's stuff?
I'm not.
His podcast. Oh, you got to get into that.
Check that out.
Oh man, it's fantastic. So Carlin is this. He says he's not a historian, but he was a history major, and he does this incredible podcast. It's called Dan Carlin's Hardcore History, and it's one of the most popular podcasts out there right now. And he did this series called The Wrath of the Khans, and it was literally 5 episodes. Each episode was like 3 hours long, so you've got like 15 hours of the Mongols, from start to the end, and it seems like everybody. That was their first episode that they went to when you go through and look through his feed. And I think now you have to pay like $1 to get that, per show. But like he's got a lot of stuff on there that's free too.
Yeah.
And then the other one I love is Daniele Boelli does History on Fire, and he does just everything. Like he did everything from remember that frozen Iceman they found in the Alps. You know that
yeah. Uh-huh.
So he did everything from him. His latest one is on this pirate queen from.
Uzi, I think.
Yeah. I
Uh-huh.
can't remember the name either, but it's something like that. But yeah, he just does everything in between, and it's fantastic. But how'd you get into this? I mean, what was the
Into the history or mythology? Into history?
Yeah.
That goes way back.
Yeah.
It goes way back to I was in high school. You know, I had a teacher that was just phenomenal.
Yeah.
You know, this former Vietnam vet, his special forces, this little gruff guy, you know, who just was a storyteller. You know,
Right.
that was what got me going was the stories. I wasn't into stories. He told stories. He didn't just give you worksheets. He didn't just give you here's something to do while I sit and read the paper. I mean, he was into it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what got me going. That's kind of what got the spark started. And then on, through college,
Right.
I got a degree in history. Found out I couldn't do much with just a degree in history, and then I went back for teaching.
Sure, right.
But telling stories has always been my thing, so it just kind of made sense.
Yeah.
Teach history, and it's been a blast.
And then how'd you get into the mythology aspect of it?
I've always been into Greek mythology all the way back. I dabbled in it, but it really didn't kick off for me until maybe 2013.
Okay.
I had to do I had a class to renew my license. Every so often, you have to renew your license, and I was doing a tech project. We did a tech project. It was an educational tech class, and one of the projects was you had to use Wikispaces, to put together some kind of database.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, what the heck? I want to get it for Greek mythology. We do a Greek mythology unit every year, and I just started writing these stories about. Rewriting these stories for kids that make it accessible.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I love about the page is it's not anything that's over your head, and I don't even remember how I stumbled on it, but the amount of work that must go into it has got to be insane.
It is, but it's while you're doing it, you don't even realize it.
Sure.
I'll snap to it about 3 a.m. and be like, oh man, I got to wake up in 2 hours writing the stories, but. It's a labor of love. I mean,
Yeah.
it turned into that. It started as a project for school, and it just it snowballed. And then I started the Facebook page for it. Started putting the stories on there, and then I started adding comics and pictures.
And it's Mythopedia.
Mythopedia.
Okay, I've been following it forever,
Yeah.
and it's just even the artwork on it is fantastic. I mean,
Yeah.
I've never seen that stuff before.
Well, I mean, I try to find whenever I find an artist online that does something, I always try to give them props.
Yeah.
I try to send people to that site just to
Sure.
out of common courtesy. But I mean, I've been starting to do something called infographics. They're kind of like graphics that have a little bit of writing, a little bit of information, pictures. I've been working on that for class, and it just kind of same thing. I was working on it for class, and
Yeah.
it evolved into something else for the Mythopedia. So,
Yeah, the one you posted this morning of the guy walking over the fire. What,
that wasn't mine. That was from a different site.
Okay.
That was from a site that focuses on Japanese yokai,
Yeah.
the spirit creatures. Yeah,
that
some
picture
cool
was
stuff.
just insane looking.
yeah. It's called Yokai Attack. That's the Facebook page.
Okay, yeah, I have to
Guy
check
actually
that
lives
one.
in Japan. It's an American that lives in Japan. That's his thing.
Yeah.
He's got some fantastic books out.
So you started off with the Greek, and then you've expanded obviously over time. And I mean, if you just started this in 2013, you're really putting in a lot of time and effort into this.
Yeah,
stuff.
we're talking. Well, these days it seems like hours every day. It seems
Right.
like, on top of school and everything else.
Yeah.
I love it. It's my hobby. It's what I do.
What's your what's the favorite story from the Greeks?
Oh, gee, that's a tough one. Because I just gave the kids the Minotaur. We talked about the Minotaur
Yeah.
Crete and Theseus. I'm trying to think of my favorite one. There's so many.
You got to
Top of
check
my
it
head,
out.
I'm trying to think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say probably the creation story, the story of the Titans and the war in heaven and
Right.
the Titanomachy and all of that. That's probably my favorite story. There's
Yeah.
so much going on there.
Yeah.
How the gods overtook their parents and became the head honchos.
Yeah, then you ended up with Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades,
figuring
right?
it out for who's going to be in charge.
Right.
Ticked off brothers because the other two didn't get what they wanted. Yeah.
Isn't that amazing that they,
It's so detailed too. There's
Yeah.
so much going on there. So much dynamic now.
Do you think? Where do you think all this came from? Do you think there was, just incredible storytellers or incredible imaginations? Do you think there was something that sparked this stuff?
It's a mix of everything. I mean, it started off with people trying to explain what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have the scientific know-how that we did. So
Sure.
they saw a fight. Well, how do we explain that away? I don't think it all happened at once either. I think these things were all kind of compiled over time because you've got things that might have come from the Minoans in Crete, that were passed on to the Greeks later on after their civilization had gone. And then you've got stuff that was written centuries later by Homer. You have the Odyssey.
Yeah.
You've got all that. It's kind of it's all been compiled together. People kind of assume it's all together, but I think it's over the space of a couple.
You got to
100,
realize,
1,000
right?
years.
You're dealing with 1,000 years there of people playing the telephone game with each other, and passing stuff down.
And some of these heroes, like you've got Hercules, as
Mm-hmm.
people usually know him. I think he might have been a real guy that was just this fantastic warrior.
See, that's what I'm wondering with a lot of the heroes.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone
adding
seems
to
to
the
be related to Hercules one way or another.
It's mostly through Zeus.
Right.
Zeus was getting busy. He was.
What was the story with? Is it Helena Troy's mother that he turned into a swan and had sex with her? Or something?
I think that was who was that? Not Helen. Well, I think Helen Troy and Castor and Pollux. I think
Yeah.
there were like 4 kids that came out of that.
Right.
2 kids that were Zeus's and 2 kids that were her husband's.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Figured that out.
huge into.
She laid eggs.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what they were thinking.
Yeah, I mean, it gets so intricate and so detailed, and you wonder how this stuff. And then, even the Trojan War stuff is, I've read that Homer probably wasn't just one person; it was probably a conglomeration of people talking about the Trojan War.
Oh, yeah.
But,
the Odyssey's the one that always gets me. It's like the after the
Right.
Odysseus and the journey home. 10 years, wandering around, can't get home.
and the dog's still alive when he gets there.
The dog's still alive and dies promptly thereafter. As soon as he gets a pet on the back, he's done.
That was the most unbelievable part of that whole story. There's Cyclopses and Sirens, and the dog's still alive is the one thing that always got me when he got home. But
Got to give his wife props. She lasted that whole time.
There's another great podcast. Guy's name is Jeff Wright. He does the Trojan War, the podcast, and he basically tells the story of the Iliad, but he does all the lead up, he does all the background in there, so he's kind of mixing, whatever the actual history of the Trojan War was with the Iliad, and it's really fascinating. His main job is he goes to these schools. He'll go to high schools and tell 4 hours. He'll sit there and tell a 4-hour story of the Trojan War.
Oh,
and these kids sit through it, which is amazing.
They
to
love
me.
it. The kids love it. They eat it up. I have kids that even tell me stuff after. These kids get so into it. Sometimes they'll correct me, and I'm like, oh man, all right,
Yeah.
It started out, and I got to thank the Percy Jackson books for that. The kids have been reading those the past.
Yeah, I can't remember what the names of those are, but
8 years or so, and they know all these gods and goddesses from that.
Right.
So a lot of them already have that knowledge, and I'm thinking I'm stumping them with these all this new stuff. They're like, oh yeah, we've heard of this. So I got to really dig deep to find some stuff they haven't. That's easy with Greek mythology because there's so much.
Yeah,
so much
never ends.
That well known. Everybody knows that the big stories. I don't know the little stories.
Right. Yeah, I'm still reading stuff that I've never heard before, or stuff that I've forgotten, and I started to really get into the Norse myths. And there's a lot of similarities between Greek and Norse, which always amazes me. These people were so far apart from each other. And, how much actually was going on as far as, were they having some kind of contact with it that we don't even know?
It's possible. I mean, the Greeks did trade up into England direction, to get tin and copper, and bronze. That was where the stuff was at. So it's possible. There's a lot of similarities, not just from Norse and Greek, but if you go to the Eastern European Slavs and the Slavic stuff, there's a lot of similarities there too.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
A lot of the stories probably being passed down from travelers and
traders,
generations. And, that's pretty amazing. I just read Neil Gaiman's retelling of the Norse myths. Did you read that one?
It was fantastic.
Yeah, it was.
It was simply. I mean, it was great. It was just simply written. The layman could come in and read it.
Exactly.
And get it. It's great.
That's what I actually read it on the flight. We were just in Iceland in June, and read it on the flight over. 5-hour flight. I was done with that thing because it was such a fast read.
I blew through that one.
Yeah.
I've
and it was a perfect place to read it too. And those people over there, these mythologies and how harsh and brutal they were, and you're dealing with a race of people over there that are just absolute animals.
What's crazy is that in Iceland, especially, there's a big resurgence in return to those gods. You're seeing temples built. You're seeing people are returning to that.
Yeah, it's definitely thick over there. I mean, they're. I tell you what, they're the best people I've ever run into. I mean, these people are absolute savages. I mean, they live in this country that is. The weather is just brutal for the majority of the year. Yeah. I mean, it was 50 degrees in late June while we were over there, and I mean that was warm for them, and they're the most fantastic humans I've ever been. I've been everywhere, and they're just the best people I've ever come across. But yeah, there's a lot everywhere you go, and I don't know if it was more touristy or what, but there's definitely a lot of references to the Norse myths everywhere you go there.
Yeah. And I found this out too. I mean, they will not build a road. There's certain areas they believe are still dwellings of dwarves and elves and everything. They stones, big giant boulders. They will actually build roads around the boulders as to not tick off the dwarves. I mean, they do that. They're not like us where they they'll just bulldoze right. They don't do it. They'll build a road curving right around.
I'd read something that I can't remember the exact quote, but it was something like. 80% of Icelanders will tell you they don't believe in elves, but then the same number won't do things to like that kind of stuff. Won't move a certain rock, or it's just.
It's a lot like the United States people believing in angels. It's the same kind of thing.
Yeah,
people
right.
Say, oh no, but then when it comes down to it, little things.
Yeah, well, maybe not. We'll maybe not piss them off.
Right. Maybe we'll hedge our bets a little bit.
Yeah. So and the reason why I have you on the show is we do such a wide range of topics on this show, and it's basically just stuff that interests me.
Yeah.
And like I said, the page is incredible. So I wanted to have you on and just talk about number one the page, but number two your favorite parts of these stories, and what you dig about them. And is there anything that's like sparking your attention right now that you're really getting into?
I'm trying to dig a little deeper into African mythology. Mm-hmm. That's a tough one to crack because there's just so much, and it's not a lot of it's been recorded. It was all passed down, orally. So there's not a lot of information on the internet. So trying to compile some stuff to put out there so people can actually get into it a little bit. Pacific Islander stuff's really cool.
Yeah.
With Moana coming out, and everybody now knows
Maui.
Right. I mean, Maui's he's a trickster like you wouldn't believe. He's fantastic. He's right up there with Loki.
Okay.
I mean, he's crazy. He's good stuff.
My wife just forced me to watch that movie the other day, so I saw that. For those movies,
it is pretty good. I enjoyed it. I think they did a pretty good job with him. And The Rock, was a fantastic.
Yeah, right. So he does pretty good. Anything, yeah.
Every time I think I've found every pantheon, or I found somebody else. It's Brazilian. There's all these different things. It never ends.
Right.
Every time it's like I have ADHD. I can't focus on one at a time. Every time I think I'm going to work on one group, something else comes up.
Right.
Just, my
now,
attention shifts.
how close were like the Germanic tribes and into Britain? How were they more into the Norse gods, or did they have their own religions? They're
very close. They're very closely tied.
Yeah.
Like in Germany, you have like Wotan. Wotan was Odin.
Right.
And probably started more in Germany and moved its way
north
into the Scandinavia that way.
Right.
Very closely tied.
Yeah, I always wondered that because you'd see, and then Ireland seems to have their own myths and stories up there as well.
Tuatha and all of that. Yeah.
And I've seen you done a little bit on that.
I'm trying. I got a lot of vocal people. I got people from Ireland like, no, you're not doing it right. I'm trying here. You guys got to give me some constructive criticism here. Give me some feedback. So I know, I don't know. All I can go is on what I find.
Right.
So
yeah.
If you guys know the truth, let me know.
Yeah.
But they get touchy. The Irish, I'll mess with their mythology.
Right.
I'll let you know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
We have a guy at the gym who speaks Gaelic, and
that's good. That's good stuff.
Yeah, he'll say something in Gaelic, and I just giggle, man. It's just like you don't hear that anymore,
No.
But that's a
and you never mix up Irish with Scottish.
No, yeah.
Don't do that.
Right.
They'll call you out.
Yeah, I dealt with. I was a professional Highland Games athlete for that used to be my career, and I dealt with Scots all the time, and I was on a bus ride with a man by the name of Alistair Gunn one time. We had a 3-hour conversation. I had no idea what he said to me the whole time. We were both speaking English, so just railing on. I was just nodding my head, but it took me a while to pick up the language. It's the same language. We pick up the brogue and be able to figure out what the hell they were talking about. But so, do you get into any of the Graham Hancock stuff, the ancient civilization stuff? Yeah.
I've read some of that stuff. I'm still working my way through his latest one.
The Magicians of the Gods.
I haven't gotten through that yet. I have that on it's in my giant pile of books. It's by my head. So yeah, I'm working on that. That's more Göbekli Tepe and that kind of thing. That's fantastic stuff.
Right.
I just told my kids, I'm like, you guys learned about Mesopotamia last year being the oldest culture in the world. That's not true.
Right. Yeah.
We're finding out that that's totally not true.
Isn't that interesting now, though? That what we got taught and up to what they got taught, and I'm sure it's still being taught that way. What do? Do you just throw out everything out and start over with a new timeline?
And well, here's the thing: the people that write the textbooks and the people that are the academia, they like to hold on to the past. They don't like to change.
Sure.
You got all this information, but it's no, that can't be. Well, it's being proven that it is. So
what the hell is that?
You've got kids learning that 1492. That's the first Europeans to ever come here. Forget about the Norse. Forget about anybody else that might have been here. That's just. The kids are amazed when you tell them that all these different people probably were here.
Right.
Way before. Not to mention the Native Americans were here first, but they.
That's what amazes me is because of people's either quest for money or not wanting to admit that they've been teaching something wrong for 20 years. They hold on to something that just isn't true, and I know that they don't know what Göbekli Tepe exactly is yet or where it came from, but the fact that 12,000 years ago, when we were supposed to be hunter-gatherers, and they're doing this intricate 3D stone carving on these giant pillars.
Beautiful animal carvings.
Animals that weren't even supposed to be there in that region of the world.
And they buried it on purpose.
Nobody knows why. Because it was buried 12,000 years ago, not...
The whole complex,
So you think... It was buried 12,000 years ago. However long it took to make it and carve it and use it before they buried it, and then how long did they have the skill that they had to perfect in order to get it to that level before? How long were they doing 2D carvings and
I have a feeling. I think human history goes back way further than we give it credit for. That we know of. I mean, it's. I don't know if you're familiar with the whole idea of the Ice Age civilization.
Yes.
When the water rose and when the ice started melting, that a lot of the shorelines were just inundated.
So we were talking about this the other day. So with Irma, they had a 10-foot storm surge. Mm-hmm. And I was listening to Randall Carlson talk about a meteor that hit the planet, I think it was 6,000 years ago. And it caused a 300-foot storm surge from the meteor hitting the polar ice cap. That's where he was thinking that a lot of our flood stories came from.
Yeah, everything rose at onse. It makes sense if everybody was seeing the same thing, that would tie together. Yeah.
So if 10-foot storm surge just about covers Key West right now, can you imagine what a 300-foot storm? And everyone's got their civilization, I'm assuming, right by water and rivers and oceans, It's all under the water.
Yeah, India's. They actually have found some things in India that they're trying to check out and figure out from that time that look like they may be ruins.
Right.
Dwarka, I think it is called Dwarka.
I've heard of that.
East coast of India.
Yeah, and anytime you mention advanced civilizations, pre-Ice Age, pre-Younger Dryas civilizations, people start thinking, "Oh, you're talking about them having iPhones and they
Bronze
just
Age, maybe Iron Age, Roman level of
right,
possibly. I mean, I wouldn't say they were, anything what we have going on.
Sure,
certainly not medieval. I don't think even. I mean, we're talking. They were tool builders. Obviously,
right.
They were building monuments. I mean, they were. I would.
They were able to do 3D carvings with whatever that is. Yeah. I don't know. I've read. Von Daniken's Chariots of the Gods. I'm not sure, and I've gone down the rabbit hole on that for many times, and I don't think I actually need, aliens to have come down and built
Right.
these civilizations. I just think that we're not paying attention to what happened. We're thinking we're on this straight timeline that just is just gradually rising for.
I think we've had a couple rises and falls.
I think so, too.
We've been all over the place, and this is just the highest we've gotten that we know of.
Right.
This is the highest.
Technologically,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
Hopefully we don't lose that, but
It's amazing that we've been on the planet for 250,000 years, and nothing happens. For the first 200-some
I can't believe
thousand.
that's the case. I don't want to believe that's the case.
Right. All of a sudden, in 6,000 years, we go from hunter-gatherers to walking on the moon to the first airplane to the first atomic bomb, and it's just all of a sudden this huge shift.
I would give good money to see what's down there, underneath the weight. Who knows? I have a feeling and that's where that flood myth comes from. Everybody moved up to drier land, had to restart from scratch, and that became, not knowledge anymore, became a legend. And
so I'm guessing you see that in pretty much all mythologies. You have some kind of flood.
Yeah, you've got a flood myth. The Greeks had a flood myth. The Aztecs, all of them have a flood myth.
Right.
India has a big one, and they all, the Sumerians. You've got Utnapishtim.
Yeah.
Who was basically Noah. I mean, the story is almost identical. Head to the ark.
Right.
Everything was pretty much.
And it seems like a lot of it is about that time that was it 6,000 years BC or whatever, 9,600 years ago or whatever it is. But
roughly 10,000.
Yeah. And it all seems to happen at the same time. It's unbelievable to me that all these people had this incredible imagination. They came up with all of these same stories from all these different cultures with different languages all over the world. There has to be something behind that somewhere. That there was some kind of.
Well, I think if there were sophisticated civilizations, they were all trading too. They were all moving back and forth. They had ships sailing back and forth. I mean, they probably knew each other pretty well. I mean.
I've read some stuff about the Romans being in the Great Lakes areas mining copper.
Rumor. Well, what I read, I don't know if you've ever read Gavin Menzies. Mm-mm. Gavin Menzies wrote 1421, which was all about China exploring the world before Shang He and the treasure fleets. But he had a book a couple years ago, kind of pointing towards the Minoans having come done that.
Wow.
Back in 3000 BC,
right,
when they were at their height and before they got
pre-Athens and.
There was a show, and in fact, there's a show. It was on History Channel a couple of years back. Scott Wolter did it. It was called America on Earth. He did an episode on that where there's some strange symbols they've found. That the Native Americans can't account for. They're not ours. We don't know what they are. That might have come from the linear language that they spoke.
Right.
That we can't decipher. So it might have been the Minoans. They might have come up this way and traded with the Native Americans back then, or whoever was in charge here. There might have been a civilization. I mean, the Native Americans had different civilizations here too.
Yeah, it's amazing to me that we spend so much time trying to figure out what's coming next and where we're going, and if we're going into space, or we're doing these missions to Mars, and we still don't have any idea what actually happened in history here. I was. Looking, I mean, every week it seems that there's something that comes up that pushes civilization back just a little bit further, And I know they're looking at footprints in Crete right now as possible a possible alternative history than the out of Africa scenario that there might have been.
You always have pushback on it. That's like their holy grail.
Right?
Don't mess with Africa, the diaspora out of there. Don't mess with that because. Scientifically, they're all solid. That's where we came from. That's definitely it. I mean, who knows? But that's the great thing. There's so much new technology coming out. You're finding new cities in the rainforests in Central America. You're finding things where they never thought they existed, like the rainforests in Brazil, in the Amazonia. You're finding that there were actual civilizations, maybe not advanced civilizations, but they're finding foundations. They're finding lines that there shouldn't be lines. Even here in North America, you're finding things that, the Native Americans had these geometric built mounds.
Right. We've got Jason Jarrell coming on the show. Jason just wrote a book, and I'm not sure what the title is yet. It hasn't been released. It's still going through production, but it was a book on the burial mounds of southern Ohio and West Virginia and the skeletons they had pulled out of these burial mounds that were supposedly gigantic.
Yeah, that's the rumor. you've got people that are, of course, that's, you hear naysayers all the time.
Right.
I don't know, you ever listen to AM, Coast to Coast AM?
Yeah, I've heard
All the
that.
time,
I used to work the night shift at the detention home, and I would put that
A
on.
long distance drive. I'll download it and listen to it also. Great stuff.
George Norrie.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that was good. He's. I'm looking forward to that book coming out. I'm going to read it as soon as it does and go down and talk to him. But I just tend to be. I don't want to get too locked into any theory as far as what's going on, because I just don't think we know enough. And there's always stuff coming out, and everyone seems to be, this is the way it is, and we're going to stick with this story. And
I do have a friend that the Smithsonian's got a ton of stuff locked in its basement that.
Well, I think that's one of the things
that have just been. Well, we can't figure out.
Yeah,
we're not going to make a statement out. We'll just lock it away. And
well, that's what Jason's talking about. Yeah. I know a lot of his Facebook posts that he's uncovered a lot of stuff where the Smithsonian showed up, and then all of a sudden this evidence is gone. You know, so
in the Grand Canyon there was a find.
I had heard that.
Supposedly somebody was hiking around down there, found a cave, and went inside and found this complex underground of what looked like Bronze Age or some kind of civilization had built a temple in there or something.
Right.
It was semi-Egyptian looking.
That area is now off limits.
Yeah, you can't get to it.
Right.
The government owns it. You can't get rid of it. And black helicopters show up if you step out of line there. Yeah, so who knows? There's got to be something to it. I mean,
yeah, they're protecting the area, and like I said, I people always go towards the aliens, and I just don't think we know what happened in our own history. I just think there's so much that we don't know, and I really don't think it was a linear progression from hunter-gatherers to missions to Mars. Just doesn't seem to make sense to me.
I'm hoping it all comes out someday. I'm hoping it all.
Yeah, hopefully in our lifetime, right?
A teacher me wants to know that. When I just, that's why I read so much. Because I know all this stuff. Like I read.
Yeah.
You guys can read too. You'll know.
It's been an inordinate amount of time.
Way too many books at home. You guys read all those books, but I don't have enough shelves to put them.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah, I've spent many a night with a little bit too much rum in my system, reading books and just going, I gotta find out what this is, and it drives me nuts sometimes. I gotta kind of pull myself back. But that's it's all really good stuff. Hancock was talking about Atlantis, and we're going down to Mexico in February, and my wife wants to lay on the beach, and I'm always good for that too. But the best thing I want to see down there is we're going to go down and see as many of the pyramids as we can while we're down there. And I love the story. There's one story from the conquistadors when they went down there and they were talking to the Aztecs, and they asked them, who built these pyramids, and they said, well, they've always been here, but we always seem to give the Aztecs credit for something they never claimed to do.
Well, you've got like Teotihuacan.
You're right.
It's this huge complex that the Aztecs, nobody had built. It's older than the Aztecs, older than the Mayans.
Right.
They don't know. We don't know who built it. It's just always been here.
You look at those Olmec statues they found that look like black guys to me.
And that's totally possible too. You
Right.
had West African empires that could have come
right
at any point. They had the technology. They're not that far away.
Yeah.
From there, water-wise, it's just a quick jump from Africa to South America and up the coast. So.
Yeah, and if the water lines were lower back then too, it could have been a much quicker jump. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So, what are you looking at next for Mythopedia? Where are we going with this?
Well, I've been designing these infographics. That's kind of something I've been doing. I've kind of taken a break from writing news stories. I'm just, things have just come back to that. But
when school settles down, I'm sure.
Yeah, we're in a brand new school building, and everything's new, so we're it's very busy. But at some point, I may even do my own podcast. I don't know.
Well, yeah, that's what you were talking about. That I think if you have any ideas for it, I mean, are you looking to interview, or are you looking to just tell stories?
That would be tell some stories, maybe some music going on there. I used to DJ at Kent State back in the day.
Yeah, right.
Late night DJ, so I'd get some tunes going. Just whoever. I mean, there's tons of people on that page that would be awesome. I have people from all over the world that contact me about stuff or ask me questions about stuff.
Yeah.
So bunch of people would love to, I'm sure, love to talk about.
Isn't social
They're
media
in the world.
amazing?
Yeah.
You know, it gets you in touch with all these people you never would have had any kind of
Yeah.
contact with before.
I got a pal down in Brazil who's constantly sending me Brazilian mythology.
You said that pantheon's pretty extensive too down there.
Well, it's not not as extended as the Greeks or the Norse,
Sure.
but I mean it's just different.
Yeah.
There's just a variety. It's not, Norse and Greek, they're kind of similar. I'm looking into some of the different, just something different. Something
Yeah.
because a lot of people don't know anything about Aztecs or Mayans. Like, I'm trying to educate people on that stuff.
Right.
Wherever I can, just to get out there. That's why I kind of put out some of these new infographics on different things. Like, people are like, well, I've never heard of that.
Yeah, it's
Good
all
stuff.
fascinating stuff, man. Did you read American Gods?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
1,000 times.
I'm sure, and my knowledge is nowhere near as extensive as yours, but it was just cool to kind of pick them out before you knew who they were actually talking about, before they would
I
identify.
knew right away who Mr. Wednesday was.
You know what? The only reason I knew that is because the movie was coming out or the TV show was coming out at the same time, and I picked that up.
Oh, I read that book a couple of years back. Wednesday, Wotan. I knew it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I knew right.
Did you watch the show?
Oh yeah.
I haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen it.
And there's some differences, but it's pretty good.
Yeah.
There's some things that really blew people's minds. The scene with Bill Quist where she was with the guy and
right. Yeah.
he gets worshipped or she gets worshipped.
I'm not sure how that's even going to look on TV.
Oh, it was interesting. That kind of blew people's minds. It was like the first episode right out of the gate.
You're either going to stick with this or you're not after this one. There's no midway point.
I thought that Anansi was done very well.
Yeah.
The trickster, the African trickster. I think Orlando Bloom played him.
Oh, okay.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Did a great job.
And the guy who played Loki was it was a young kid, wasn't it? In the book, it was, I think.
The guy that played Loki, Eli Smith, the guy that was in the prison with Shadow.
See, right. Yeah.
I don't remember who played it. It was very quick. It was very just the beginning.
Okay.
I don't remember who it was. I don't know.
Yeah, I read that book, like 700 pages. We were down in St. Petersburg, Florida, and I couldn't believe how fast I got through there because you just couldn't put it down. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
I have to check it.
Chernobog, out of stuff. That's a great myth too. The Chernobog and
Well, tell that one that's the guy with the hammer, right?
That's the guy with the hammer in Slavic mythology. And we don't even know if he really existed. All this stuff was kind of collected by Christian missionaries. Mm-hmm. So obviously they put their own spin on some of these
right.
deities. But according to the story, you've got these two gods that are kind of polar opposites. They're brothers. You've got Chernobog, who is the black god, the dark god, and you've got his brother Belobog, who is the light.
Right.
And they kind of counterbalance each other. So Chernobog was the hammer, all about about the brutal stuff.
Yeah.
So there's not much known about him. That's the thing.
Yeah.
He had kind of could make up kind of some things that he whatever he wanted to do with that. So
right.
That's what he did.
And the sisters. There were three
sisters.
girls?
Yeah. Oh, I forget how to pronounce it. It's in Russian. So.
Yeah.
But the morning, afternoon, and night basically, and they were the protectors. And their main job was to basically keep the moon from being swallowed by a giant wolf.
Okay.
That was their job.
I love them. They're all living in this shitty apartment in the moon or in the book,
Yep. And I could see him. It's just gruff old Russian guy.
Yeah.
Get out.
Yeah.
It's kind of what I had in mind. And the guy that played him was perfect.
Yeah. I got to check that. I've got so many shows that I've got to.
They did add some gods to it that weren't in the book.
Right.
They had Vulcan on there, who was the Roman god. He's basically Hephaestus from Greek mythology, Roman version of him. But he was in there. They did more with Easter.
Yeah.
The spring goddess. She had more of a big part in it. It was really well done.
Yeah, it was kind of cool to see all the different places, the House on the Rock and things like that. My wife has been trying to get me to go to that for years. She wants to take our son to that.
To go there. I hear all these great stuff about it. I've never been. It's way up there in Wisconsin. It's a drive.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind a little road trip.
Yeah, it's not too bad. We used to when we were dating, she lived in Wisconsin, so I'd have to drive up there, every other weekend, to visit. But other than Chicago, having to drive through Chicago, which is brutal.
That's always tough. Chicago's tough. I would love it. It's funny because Gaiman mentions like places of power, and it's almost I kind of feel that way. There's places in any country where there's a different vibe. Things kind of come together, and you just kind of feel.
I'm reading this book, Daniele Boelli's "Create Your Own Religion." He talks about animism and people finding these power places in nature, and not. You talked about the Germans, the Germanic people. That was a big part of theirs. They didn't have temples and churches. They found these power places
because of energy. Ley lines and things like that.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's pretty amazing stuff. I've got a guy coming on the podcast next weekend, Jason Pauly, who's a good buddy of mine and very Christian guy, and I drive him nuts, I think, sometimes. but I'm looking forward to talking about that kind of stuff with him, because I talked to my wife, and she's very spiritual, and talks about that's where she finds God. It's in nature, and
I would agree with that. So when I'm having a rough, I go out somewhere, go for a hike, go out to the lake, and just find a spot there's nobody's at, and just soak it up.
Yeah, and that's why we live out here. I look at that lake and I'm at peace.
Yeah, we're kind of blessed to have that lake here. We realize how
we have a competition that we host every year, not more than probably a mile and a half, 2 miles down the road, and people come from all over the country. They have no idea what this is. They think they come to Lake Erie, and you're going to be able to see the other side. It's a pond.
Yeah, and what I get usually, you live by Lake Erie, isn't that like toxic waste? You should come up and check it out sometime. It's not like
bad.
The 60s anymore. Right. It's beautiful. You should see it.
No burning rivers or anything like that.
No syringes on the beach.
Let's hope.
It's actually very, very, very nice now.
People aren't used to that. For sure. Do you get into, speaking of this area, do you get into much of the Native American?
That's an area I would love to dive into, but it's so hard because there's so much. There's so many
individual
tribes, areas and tribes and different. A lot of them, some of them do tie together.
Right.
You've got certain things that do kind of tie. You've got the Raven. You've got I'm trying to think who else. Coyote.
Coyote's huge,
more
right?
Southwest, but around here you would have had like the Wendigo.
Mm-hmm. I've heard of that.
All about cannibalism and your spirit kind of turns evil from eating the flesh of another human.
Right.
That's kind of cool. But sadly, there's no one here left to ask. Like there's no Native American tribes in Ohio where you could go and meet with somebody and get the straight skinny on it. There's nobody left here to talk to. Unless you drive up to New York maybe and talk to the Seneca.
I know there's some casinos up there and stuff.
They have reservations. You could go talk to somebody at the reservation. They'd probably be willing to talk to you about it if you find the right guy.
Yeah, and they might be our age. They're 30s and 40s. They might not know anything anymore. I wonder if that stuff's...
I think they tend to pass that stuff down. That's, again,
old
tradition. They pass that down to their kids. From what I understand, and most tribes that are situated, they pass that down.
Yeah. I've got a friend of mine, Andrew Hobson, who is a Native American Navajo artist, and he does some of these incredible Navajo spiritual paintings that are just
the sand paintings. Sand paintings?
Well, I don't know what they're called. They're beautiful.
I've seen stuff done with the kachinas and that's some beautiful stuff done. Yeah, it's a much just that area of Native America is very different than other regions. I mean, it's just they have it's its own spirituality down there. It's very. I would love to go down there.
Yeah,
I've read up on some of it, but it's.
He's great. He's his art, and he's an art teacher, and he's his name that he uses when he paints is I'm probably not going to pronounce this right. Is Keedah, Keedah, and
that sounds familiar. I may have seen something.
He's fantastic, but he actually did this non-traditional painting, and it's of Discobolus, the Greek discus thrower, but he did it in their style with the different colored blocks and. Really cool. I've got it hanging up in my computer room upstairs. But he'll talk about. My wife got a hold of him. My wife's into a podcast. I can't remember what it's called, but they talk about things like the Mothman.
I can talk about Mothman. Right?
Yeah,
he's one of my favorites. I've been down to Point Pleasant many times. So.
Yeah, I've been. Where'd the bridge fall? Where was that?
It was Point Pleasant. It was right the bridge between Point Pleasant and Gallipolis.
Yeah. You've checked out that myth a lot?
I still go down there. There's just that's a place where there's just a different vibe.
Yeah,
like you can tell that town's been injured. I mean, it's something happened there. You can still feel the people there are wonderful.
Yeah,
they're very welcoming. But when you go there, it's just off. There's something, especially when you go out to that TNT area where the whole thing supposedly happened. It's very I don't know. It's kind of surreal out there. It's very weird.
What did it bring you down there just to check that stuff out?
That's the funny story. Like I felt a connection with that place ever since I was in fourth grade. So I was young. I got a book out of the library. Daniel Cohen. I don't know if you're familiar with Daniel Cohen. He wrote all these books about monsters and UFOs back in the day. And I grabbed it and read about the Mothman. And from that point on, I was always wanting to go down there.
And that's become our
That's our mythology.
exactly. Yeah, that's what I was trying to get
Men
to.
in Black and Keel, who wrote all about that, the Mothman prophecies. But it's a definitely a different place down there. They have the old TNT area, these bunkers from World War II that are just sitting there. It's like straight out of an X-Files episode.
Yeah.
Out there. It's worth the trip out there, definitely.
To do that one of these days. She's really big into it. Matter of fact, what got me to that was she was listening to that podcast and talked to my friend Andrew about the skinwalkers, and he had pretty intimate knowledge of that from being passed down through his relatives.
They've had sightings of dogmen down there.
Yeah,
quite pleasant. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. It still happens to this day. I mean, not as strong as when in the late '60s when this was all going on, but it's still pretty. Every once in a while, someone will have a sighting of something down there.
Right.
But,
and like you said, that becomes the mythology. That'll stick.
Yeah.
People will be talking about that forever.
Yeah, I mean, I tell them every Halloween. I tell my kids that story because I have this giant poster of the moth I bought at the museum down there. Like, who's the moth? I'm like, I'll tell you the story.
Right.
And they just hang on it. They love it.
Yeah.
Good story.
Give us for people who don't know, give us the abbreviated version of it.
I think it was 1966. It was like November, so it was fall. A bunch of kids were out driving around in this old TNT area. It was an old munitions factory that had closed down in World War II. So it was basically left to nature. There's these old storage igloos out there where they stored TNT and weapons and stuff just left there in the swamp. It's like out of a Scooby-Doo episode, But they're cruising around, and people just cruise. Kids will cruise around. Go neck out there.
Scare the crap out of each other.
Right. And, these kids were driving around, and as they're driving past this old power plant, they see this what looks like a man standing there, like a tall man, like with a gray cloak on. And as they get closer, this thing just spreads its wings and takes off and starts chasing them. And they haul out of there. And this thing chases them all the way back to the town limits. And from that point on, people started seeing this thing all the time.
Mm-hmm.
They would see it perched on buildings. They would see it. People get chased by it. There's all kinds of, and it's happened for a whole year. These are people that aren't going to lie. These people are mountain folks. They're honest.
And they've seen everything in that area.
Yeah, and they these are people that aren't going to lie to you about it. Just make it up for people. They don't want the publicity. But for that whole year, it got hyped up. It got hyped. They were seeing UFOs. There was poltergeist activity. Just crazy stuff was happening in this town. They started seeing these what looked like federal agents that were all dressed in black with black hats, black everything, black cars, unmarked cars called the Men in Black.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know what the Men in Black were. We don't know if they were government or what they were. But
right.
They would come into town and tell people not to talk about things. And
is that where that came from originally?
Yeah, and the movies.
Mm-hmm.
The movies are a much nicer version
You're
of
right.
Men in Black. But these guys were sinister. They seemed to be just off. They didn't know how to speak correctly, and everything kind of, our normal stuff, just they didn't understand. So it was kind of like they weren't really federal agents.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know who they were, but a year later, it was a couple days before Christmas in 1967, the Silver Bridge there just collapsed. And they think, the rumor is that the Mothman was it was like a harbinger of doom, like trying to tell people, hey, this is going to happen. It was the middle of rush hour. The Silver Bridge was packed to the gills with the people coming home. They were going shopping, and the bridge just collapsed and dumped 42 people into the river.
Wow.
In the middle of winter, and then I think a couple people survived. The rest didn't even find 2 of the bodies. It was horrible. And that town still has the scars from that. I mean, you don't talk about it. People don't want to talk about it. It's still people that were there.
Yeah, I had some friends who had parents who were in Marshall. Mm-hmm. When that happened, they still vividly remember when that happened.
I mean, I've seen the video. There's this YouTube video people put up of the actual footage of it.
No shit!
It's terrifying. It's horrible because they pull the wrecks of these cars out of the river.
Yeah,
I guess there were Christmas presents floating in the river.
Wow.
It was just bad.
Yeah,
and that was it. Mothman was gone. It disappeared. That was it.
And they had reoccurrences of it at different places after that.
Well, every once in a while, over the years, people claim they've seen it, but who knows?
Sure.
If they're just trying to get some kind of,
right.
talk about it. I don't know. It could be. People have seen it in Chicago. People have seen it. Some people think to have seen it during 9/11.
Yeah.
But who knows?
Yeah.
It's hard to say.
Yeah.
Don't know what it was. Something happened there. I mean, there was something going on. That whole town experienced something, but I don't know what.
You get that so often, when you get these quote unquote mass hallucinations or whatever, and they saw some. Clearly, not everybody is lying.
Yeah. I mean, a couple people you might just be on the bandwagon, but most of the people are good. Honest,
I think it would be better off if you just say we don't know what's going on instead of they're weather balloons or
That's I've always believed that to be a baloney excuse.
The Area 51 stuff.
That's no. Something happened. I totally believe there's something out there. I mean,
that there's
aliens wise, and it's got to be. But.
There's so many galaxies out there, and to think. I mean, the one theory is that the most depressing theory is the fact that I can't remember the name of the scientist who talked about it, but you get to a civilization gets to a certain point where they can destroy themselves. And they inevitably destroy themselves, so they don't get to the next step that gets you.
Right.
I
don't know if I believe that.
Yeah.
I think we're just better at it than maybe most.
Right.
Our species is pretty good at wiping each other out. But I'm hoping we get past that someday. But I was a big Star Trek fan back in the day, so still am. So I'm hoping we get to that point.
We get to that.
Leave that behind.
Right.
That
was that was such an innovative series in general. Where you had the first interracial kiss, and you had everybody on the deck of the Enterprise is different races, and no one seems to give a shit. It's all that was pretty amazing stuff for that.
60s, that was a big deal. Yeah, now we don't think as much about it.
Yeah, now you wouldn't think anything at all.
Back then, probably gasping. Oh my god!
Right? Yeah.
I just kissed.
Awesome. Well, this has been great. I really enjoyed having you on the show. I'd love to have you on again.
Absolutely.
Give your. Are you on Instagram too? Just on Facebook?
I do have an Instagram account. It's for the Mythopedia. It's just I think Mr. P's Mythopedia.
I'm gonna check that out. I don't think I've got you on Instagram, but.
Everything's on my Facebook page. So if you get to the Mythopedia Facebook page, everything should be on there.
Yeah, and if anybody needs that, I'll give me a holler and I'll tag you in posts on there. And
oh man, there's stuff being posted every day.
Several times. I love it.
December already.
I love it.
But always something new coming up. So
awesome.
Yeah.
All right, great. Brandon Parsons, Mr. P's Mythopedia.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, brother. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Hey, thanks for listening to the Refined Savage podcast. A few more things before you go. Please do us a favor and head over to iTunes and leave us a 5-star review. Jump on over to Instagram and like our page at Refined Savage Podcast. And you can search for us on Facebook by looking for the Refined Savage Podcast. If you are someone with a product or service you'd like to have advertised on the show, drop us a line at blinddogjim@gmail.com and let us know what you have to offer. We'd love to help you out. Finally, we hope you are loving the show, and we are striving to bring you the best guests, most incredible events from the past, and inspirational and informative episodes. So if you love the show and want it to continue and improve, please think about heading over to blinddogjim.com and donating to the show with the PayPal button on the site. Just scroll down until you see that super sexy picture of Steve and Panda Bear Moore squatting, and hit the Pay Your Dues Now button. Any amount is a big help to defray the cost of traveling to interview guests, and believe me, we appreciate it. Thank you for listening to the Refined Savage podcast. Now go out and do something awesome.